I'm gonna this is gonna be recorded. So perfect. So to get started, I want to know what you want to get out of today. What about the title maybe that you saw? How to increase your self-worth to live your best life. What about that wanted you to be here today?
Well, I'm going through a divorce.
Okay.
And going through the struggles of him tear me down, and I just need to move forward and bring myself above him trying to tear me down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, self-worth. I thought that was interesting for what I need right now.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely today, you will get something out of this that will definitely answer that question on how do you deal with something like that? Because I think in our own ways, I mean, yours is a little bit more connected, but all in our own ways, that was one of the biggest struggles that we deal with, in our world is how do we avoid other people determining who and what our worth is, in whether it's going through a divorce or whether it's on social media and our peers, our friends, our families telling us what we can't do and how to live life. It's a huge common thing that we see in today's society. So today I will definitely be touching on how we can change that, okay? Or how you can. Okay, what about you guys?
Well, kind of going along with that, but in a different way.
That's all right.
So we're just getting married. We just got married. I have found that I have a lack of motivation to go work out because I want to spend all my time with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I know that it's important to take care of myself. And so I want to just come and see
Awesome.
how we can do that better.
Perfect. There will be a lot of things that we talk about today also that kind of talk about that, because one of the other things that I see often is, especially from women, is that we want to, or I'm not we.
I totally got
it. One of the most common things women want to do is they want to nurture, they want to give. And the thing that I find is that women tend to get lost in that giving, nurturing, and behavior, always wanting to give. And so it's very natural for you to feel that way. And some of the things that we'll talk about today will kind of show you why maybe that's not the best approach and how you can really balance that out and kind of make sense of that. Okay. What about you?
I don't know. I didn't
Support?
know that was the name of it.
she's like, no, you're coming to this because I need you to hear this. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, good. Well, hopefully there's something that he's like, I'm the only guy here. What's going on?
On the viewers, when you said I was looking, I never told them the title.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. And then, I mean, we could talk and ask Kylie why she's here, but she's kind of here because I made her. Right? No, just kidding. You're awesome. I was like, Kylie, you better be here. But maybe instead, Kylie, why don't you share your experience so far with working with me and the things that we've kind of done so far?
Without going into super detail?
Yeah.
Well, I've been going through a lot of struggles lately with past relationships, my self-worth in general. And we realized that it wasn't the outside that I was struggling with, it was the inside, and my self-worth was important. And so we just kind of been working through that. And hit a lot of roadblocks with things happening, but we're still working through it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So she made a huge point in this, and to start out, this is the one thing that I want you to keep in mind when we talk about today. As we go through today, I want you to know that your life is about taking ownership. And it's 100%. You as an individual need to understand that it's so important for you to have 100% ownership of your life at all times. And it sounds really like, I mean, we've all heard that, right? Have you guys heard like, but it's really easy to say like, when I mess up, okay, I'm going to take ownership for that. It's another thing to take ownership on how you feel, how you think, how everything in your life is created by you. Not by something, not by someone, but it's created 100% by you. That's what we have a really hard time believing. But when you start to understand this, it doesn't have to be this, that can come with a lot of heavy, burdening feelings, but it doesn't have to be. This can be actually really, really exciting, because when you understand that you are the 100% creator of your life today, it's really exciting, because that means you are 100% the ownership of what you create today and tomorrow. So sometimes you have to look at this in a different perspective, and that's what's really exciting, because if you created this and you don't really like the outcome that you have now, it means that you have the power and the ability to change that and create something different for yourself tomorrow. Okay? And I know like some circumstances might seem like, man, I don't know, Matt. I think, they made their choice and that affected me, and that might be true. But that still doesn't mean that you don't have ownership of that situation. See, what happens is when we give our ownership off to someone else, what we are saying is that we don't have power, that we don't have that ability to create anymore. Like, we're literally giving ourselves to someone else and saying, hey, here, I give you the power to tell me how to live my life. I give you the power to tell me how to create the life that I'm living. Anytime you do that, anytime you give someone the power, like, what's going to happen is that you're going to think less of yourself. It actually only affects you. I would rather have 100% ownership of everything in my life, because it means I'm in control. And that's something that we're going to talk about today, and the reason why that is so powerful and why that makes such a huge difference in the life that you're living today. Okay? Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but how many of you have, let's say, started a workout plan, started with a trainer, started working out. You got some results, maybe you didn't get results. But when the program was over, what you did is you went to you lived your life, but then, a year, 2 years, maybe even months, you find yourself looking for another program. You find yourself looking for another trainer. And you repeat the same cycle. Has anyone experienced that? I know I have, right? Kind of going in this cycle when it comes to your body. What about when it comes to your relationships? Found yourself finding the same type of friends, where it's like, I don't really like these kind of people. Or maybe even in a relationship where you continue to repeat this cycle of finding people that are like, why do these type of people keep coming back to me? Why do these type of people keep coming into my life who hurt me, that really make me, like, don't value me, but they keep coming back to my life? How many of you felt that kind of cycle before? Where you're like, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep finding these people? And what about your financial situation? What about financially? You just find yourself, okay, 1 minute I'm really good at my finances, and the next I'm really stressed out about finances. Or maybe you're just stuck and like you're going job to job to job, and no matter what job you go to, you still find yourself exactly in the same financial position that you were a year ago. Still trying to figure out, how do I get a hold of my finances? How do I increase those finances? Has anyone experienced this? Right? So here's the thing. Like, this is what I noticed in my life. I noticed that at one point that I was repeating my life over and over again. I noticed that I would be really good. I would be really excited about life. And then all of a sudden it would crash on me. Something would go wrong. Something would make me go through this period of time where I just really struggled. And this was really hard for me when I started to see my life in this pattern. Really good, really bad, really good. And there was it wasn't like an in-between. It would be this really high, and then all of a sudden it would drop to this really low. And I couldn't figure out why my life was going like this. And I don't know, is this something that you guys can relate to? Or am I just that weird? Am I the only one you guys experience this? So I started to ask myself, I was like, is this how life just is? And some people were like, well, Matt, yeah, like you just go through times where you go into trials and you have really good times. I said, that's really not how I want to experience life. I really don't think that that's how it has to be. Like, why? Why does it have to be that way? Well, you're supposed to go through challenges. Okay, great. So that means I have to go through all this pain and misery just to get here? It sounds really, really not fun. Now I can see why people don't want to go through life sometimes. So I started asking myself, why is it though that the same things, the same situations, just with different people and different circumstances, why does it keep happening to me? Have you ever asked yourself?
Because you allow it.
Exactly. That's what I discovered right there. It's because I allowed it to continue to happen to me. People always say, and this is one of the theories out there in like creating a better life, is if you just think it, you want it bad enough, and you just put out positive energy, it will come to you, right? And a lot of people fall for this, and they keep doing this, and they keep going, and then it never comes. And they get disappointed, they get frustrated, and they lose, faith in this idea that it's just about this positive energy and thinking. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. You can't just think your life to a different circumstance, right? But here's what I want you to know about this. You don't get what you want. You don't get what you want in life. You actually only get what you feel like you deserve. Okay, when you hear that, what do you hear? What comes to your mind? What does that mean to you, I guess?
You get what you feel like you're worthy.
Because I think like whenever your life's going really good, like when you feel like crap about yourself or your self-worth is really low, you're like, when's the ball gonna drop? I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this much happiness. And you like force that ball to drop on your life because, you don't recognize it, but you caused it because you're waiting for it to happen. So you make it happen. You start to look for all the negative things that happen.
Exactly. You see, when I started asking myself, like, why does this situation keep reoccurring in my life? Why does this keep happening to me? It wasn't that I was just allowing it to happen. I actually wanted it to happen. Because when times were good, I questioned whether or not I was worthy enough to have that. And the answer was always no. I didn't feel worthy enough to have the right people in my life. I didn't have enough worth to believe that I deserved financial freedom, the body, anything like that. And so what would happen is I would sabotage myself. More subconsciously than consciously, though. It wasn't like I was actively saying, oh, okay, well, that person looks like a really cruddy person. I'm going to bring him into my life. That's not what I was doing. But subconsciously, because subconsciously I had told myself so many times that I wasn't worth anything, that's what I would go bring into my life. This becomes a very, very powerful thing. Because when you start to understand this, you can really start to create a lot of awareness within you. And it really shows you the truth. Part of the process in this is discovering and learning how to only live with truth. And a lot of people, they don't want to face the truth because sometimes it sounds really harsh again. And mentally and physically, we naturally avoid anything that is going to cause us emotional, mental, or physical pain. And sometimes that truth triggers pain. But that's why so many people suffer. That's why so many people suffer inside, is because alone, they're suffering in their truth. They're stuck in this truth and they're trying to figure out, like, what is my truth? But I don't want to go there because that means I have to either change or do something different. And that requires a lot of work, and that can be scary. Maybe I'm going to hurt some people as I go along the way and I try to discover my truth and I change and I leave and do all of these things. This can be a heavy burden, but it doesn't have to be. Okay? So here's what I want to show you. Okay, and I always like to leave these up so you guys can kind of just see it as we go through the thing. Okay? When you are looking at your life, and this is the process that I take clients through when I work with them and I coach them, is the best thing and the healthy thing to do is to live like this. Is to create more awareness in your life. Everything that you do or you don't do in your life has a reaction, okay? And that's really important to understand. Because what happens when you create awareness is that you can start creating, just like it is, just awareness, and not attach feelings and emotions to what that outcome is. A lot of times that is the one thing that hinders people from ever increasing their self-worth, is that they get stuck in this. They don't see that they're creating awareness, and what they actually do is say, this is who I am. This is what I'm worth. And I see a lot of people get so stuck and they start to label themselves with these things, and that's the one thing that creates this cycle. In a divorce, this is where it really can affect the person who is, normally it's very, very rare these days to find someone who mutually breaks up and it's very clean and you're all good. Normally, what happens is that there's always going to be someone who says a reflection of who they are inside, and they say it, and they say, that's who you are. And it's because they don't want to take ownership of that part of them. So they might say that you're scum and that you did this and blah, 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 because it's a reflection of like who they are inside. But what you hear is that's who you are. Whether it's like consciously or on a subconscious level, you intake that, you absorb it like a sponge, and you identify with it. Okay? And this is where it becomes very crippling, because that's how you'll show up. And just like the running thing of all of what we've talked about so far, life is 100% about how you choose to show up in life. And so when you identify with that person that they've labeled you as, and you say, yes, I take that on, that is who I am, that's how you'll show up. And that is who you will attract, is people who will attract to that. The things in your life. It could be a physical body. I see this all the time with people who identify themselves as fat. Well, what happens when you identify as fat? You show up as you are fat. And what do fat people do? We all know, and that's what we do. That's the behavior. That's the language. That's the motions. What would be more powerful in allowing you to move forward is to notice that this is more of awareness. When someone says something to you, it's an awareness of like who they are, how they are feeling. It is not you, because you don't have to identify it. You do not have to take it on as who you are. And when you establish your self-worth, that changes. That's when it begins to change, when you don't have to absorb that and take things on as you. And you get to choose. You get to be that power because you have this ownership of your self-worth.
See, when I find that I found my self-worth, and he's getting worse because of me feeling my self-worth. It's making him wanting to tear me down more. And so I over the last several years. It's just gotten better, and I have realized that it does work, you know, not to listen to him and not to stoop down to his level. And because then I found myself, going back, and I'm like, what am I doing? I am not going to play your game because I don't feel that way about you. I'm just saying this.
Mhm.
So anyway.
Exactly. And so this is a really good analogy of what happens when someone starts to change, okay, where someone starts to better themselves. And I'll just draw this. We'll draw a stick figure. In your instance, we'll just draw a man and a woman. Okay. So, and I can't really say that I do very good at this, so don't judge my drawings. Okay. So there's him, there's you. So this is what really happens. You guys created a connection, okay? Now what is happening is that you've chosen to do something different, okay? You've chosen to start to better your life, start to better and improve yourself. Now what's happening is there is a connection or a string, let's just call it like you have a string attached to your wrist, or and you guys are attached in this way. So the thing about you is that you're holding this balloon and you're starting to go up, okay? What happens to this?
It breaks.
Well, what's happening to it? You guys are still attached.
It's getting tighter.
Tighter, right? So that string becomes very tight. And so what happens is this causes a lot of tension, because how he identifies with this is that you think you're better than him.
Mm.
You think that you're so above him. He doesn't want that. Especially as a man, we don't want that. Okay, the man's ego will never let anyone or anything feel like it's above them. So now you're kicking into a man's ego, and that becomes and because most men today don't know how to deal or express their emotions, what happens is it becomes very volatile. I don't know if I said that right. Yeah, right? It becomes very malicious and manipulative, because that's how we express. That's because we have this aggression side of us, this is how it will come out, is because that's how we are in nature. Like, we are the hunters, we are the providers, and it's a very aggressive thing. And so how we express ourselves, and we don't know how or how to distinguish it within ourselves, we just come out and we see what we see and we say what we say. So that's really what's happening to you. And like, when you understand that, like, now that you create awareness within this and you kind of see like, oh, he thinks that I think that I'm better than him by being happier, by creating a better life. And he's getting that message mixed up. Now, trying to convince him that, because it's not you that is making him feel that way, it's him. That's the hard part. Because men also don't want to listen to the people that think that they're better, because as soon as you try to fix them, they're like, no, this is not a woman's job. Right?
You made me understand that.
Make sense? Okay. So this is really important, especially in a marriage, because what happens in relationships and marriages is this same thing happens. And usually because us men aren't very good at self-improving, it's very new to this new age. There's a lot more things coming out for men, but because it is so rare, and we don't, the more we go in society, the further away men get away from themselves and who they are and how to connect with themselves, because it's very like unmanly thing to do. I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm really bashing you and us. We might, but we're in this together, Adrian. So today's society, like with men, like we don't know how to really express and connect and feel, because it's not manly. And so this is the one thing that I see is usually it's the women that are increasing, and the men get really left like they're being alone, and they think that their spouse or their significant other is abandoning them, where it has nothing to do with them. It's just the men's own insecurities. Because when they see the women rising, the men become very insecure, because they think that now they're going to find someone that is more suited for them. Because the men's going to associate themselves, I'm not good enough for her. she's way too good for me. Because when the woman starts to really vibrate at that higher frequency, the man feels it and says, she's going to go find someone else. Someone's better suited for me, for her. Okay? And this is happening a lot in society, and it causes a lot of tension. It causes a lot of like confused feelings and emotions and a lot of misinterpreted things. Okay? So, but the key in all of this is to create this awareness. Because like the more aware you are of your life, the more easy it is to navigate through it. Can you see how we just did that? How we totally changed the situation to really get clear on like what is happening, what's the real cause, and like how is he feeling? How am I feeling? Because when you do that, you start to discover things. And this is part of the process. When you create awareness, you can start to discover. You can start to discover, hey, I either like this situation or I don't like this situation. This is what is happening. And when I feel this way, so you can start to really like identify what is happening in your life, how you are feeling, and what needs to change. Okay? So, is this all making sense so far? Okay? What are you getting so far from this?
My life.
Good. Good. Is it helping so far? Okay, good. And if you have any questions like you do, like as we go through this, just ask, okay? And we'll stop. Because I'm a person that likes, I don't have any of this planned out. And I always tell people that, like, I don't have any of this planned out. I really go off of the feel and the energy of you guys and where you want to go and like what you're going to get out of it. So that being said, so when you begin to discover, now what you can do is you can start to recreate. So once you discover the things that you like or you don't like, now what you get to do is that you get to recreate something different. And this is where you get to have this ownership and start to create the life that you want to live. Because see, when I went through discovery, I was like, hey, you know what? I don't like the way that my body looks. I don't like holding myself back and feeling like I can't have the body that I want. Now I was able to go compete in 3 physique bodybuilding shows, and now like I have more awareness and I can say I can change my body however I want. Okay? It's just a matter of, do I want to? So the next thing is, you know, with my spiritual connection, what do I connect with? How do I identify with that? My relationship, what kind of relationships do I want? Marriage, as a father, friendships, what do I want in that? Am I living that? Do I have that? And if not, like what needs to change? Like how can I recreate something different to have that? And the same thing financially. Most people don't realize, but like for the majority of our marriage, we've struggled financially, living on food stamps, having the power go off in our house, struggling financially, debt collectors, handing judgment papers. And yet, in a year, 2.5, we've been able to change all of that because we made a conscious decision that we would say, this is not how we're supposed to live life. This is not how it's supposed to be. And changing that. So this is an extremely powerful thing when you actually can say, I'm going to recreate this. Because then what you get to do is you get to start to live. I truly believe that like we are not really here to struggle. That's what we've been told, but I don't believe that. I believe that you do find things that challenge you, but you don't have to struggle through them. Because struggle shows that you're really like stuck. That word is something that is not empowering. What is empowering is saying, wow, I continue to grow. And as I make more awareness and I discover what I want and I recreate it and live it, that takes me through different phases, and that's going to cause me to grow. Just like when we're here in the gym, like when you start to lift weights, yeah, you have to lift weights. You have to put some struggle, if that's what we want to call it, into your muscle in order for it to grow and to progress. Okay? Now here's the thing. Now that you know this process, this is going to be really like what we follow. So I want you to remember this, okay? Because as you see this, it's going to be really important for you to be able to apply this in your week. Okay? So if you've been listening, I've been mentioning 4 different areas of life consistently throughout this. Okay? I've been talking about the 4 areas that we operate. Four areas of operation. Any idea what they are so far? Kind of can't answer.
Relationship,
Okay, relationships.
spiritual,
Yep.
financial. What did you answer?
What else?
Sexual.
Good job.
Wow.
You're listening. It would have been really awkward today. I don't know.
I didn't say body though.
That's all right.
Because that's not for.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what we really run our lives from. Okay. We run it from a body, the soul, the relationship, and financial. These 3 things are very easy to see. Okay. They're usually pretty physical things that you can kind of see. Oh, I have a relationship. Oh, I have a body. And oh, I have financial. But the one thing we struggle with is this. Okay. And the reason why I use soul is because oftentimes when we hear spiritual, we get so caught up in religion. Okay. And a religion is not the same as spiritual. Okay. Religion is a practice. Spiritual is within you. Okay. So there are 4 areas of operation that your self-worth really depend on, okay? And what happens is these each work off of a percentage, really, of operation. Like, think about this like as the best way to look at this is like a 4-cylinder car. I know that's probably not the best analogy because 4 cylinders not that powerful, but you are, so it's not the best analogy, but let's look at it that way, okay? So if we take a car and they work out of a 4-cylinder, then it's really important that each cylinder of that car performs at 100%, because if one doesn't, then what happens? One goes into overdrive, one doesn't function properly, then they start to suffer, right? Performance goes down. It's so important and I'm not a car guy, so if I said you are,
Yeah.
I don't even know.
You're doing great.
Good. I can build an engine. So when you look at this in a cylinder aspect in our lives, the power decreases, the quality decreases in performance. We are no different. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a little bit of a note. You can do this mentally or you can write it down, however you want to do. Look at each area. What I find is that most people will have 2 or 3 of these at 100%, okay? But they will have one that is really, really suffering in their minds. And everyone's different. If you were to just say the honest truth, what percentage is your body at? What percentage is your soul? How well are you connecting with yourself? What is your relationship? And financially, give yourself a percentage. See where you're operating at. It's really eye-opening to see this because the first number that comes to your mind is usually exactly what it is. It's the truth.
And just looking at that, I see that 3 of the cylinders can make the 4-cylinder run perfect. I mean, to me, just the body, the soul, the financial, and makes you feel this more of a self-worth, so that would be giving you an amazing relationship.
Mhm.
So it really does, I like that.
They all connect to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if you're on the path of development, normally that's what it's going to be like. It's going to be like, hey, they're increasing, they're getting better. And if I fix this one, then this one's going to be better. And if I fix this one, then hey, I'm going to take better care of myself. And if this one gets better, then financially we're going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
If I create this, my relationship gets better. If that gets better, my soul will get better. If that gets better, my body will get better. This is why the awareness within all of these is so important all the time. I'm always taking a reflection and like creating awareness and seeing like, where am I at? Like really, where am I at with all of these things for me? Is it really where I need to be? And if not, like, what do I need to do to change it? This is really how you establish goals. So when someone comes into me and sits in my office and they say, hey, Matt, I want to fix my body. I say, okay, cool. Why do you want to fix your body? Well, I just want to be fit. Okay, what does that look like? Okay, well, like this. I'm going to say, well, why is that even important to you? Let's talk about that. You see, what I find when I have these conversations is that the body might be the easy one to identify as the problem. But as we go along the journey, what we find is maybe this is actually the problem. It has nothing to do with like you don't know how to fix your body. It has everything to do with you allowing yourself to feel worthy enough to even do it. Maybe it's financially. Maybe that you're not looking at your budget and you're spending all of this money over here on food that you shouldn't be eating. And now you're saying, I don't have money to invest in myself and my body. When really you are, because you're just investing in the wrong things. The same thing with your relationships. Maybe it's, hey, my body, and then, like the real hindrance in this is like you're only here because you think that this is going to change your relationship.
The last 5 weeks that I've come here, because I joined that challenge, I knew that the money that I was investing wasn't really, in 6 weeks, I wasn't really worried about the transformation that I made. My worry was just to get back in the gym and feel better. In the 5 weeks that I've been here, I feel so much better that next week when you measure me, if it's not that big of a deal, I know that I'm going to continue, that I started my challenge just to get back into the gym.
Yeah.
So that right there, I've been coming in the morning and going to work feeling so high.
Good.
Then my financial will be better because I'm going out there and just feeling secure about myself. And so as far as just the 5 weeks, I can tell that I'm moving. I'm
Starting to increase.
Yeah. So, and it's affected my soul. I mean, it's just, and the relationship, I have to wait to get divorced to go through that. But as far as everything else, it's amazing on how just looking out every morning or day that I've come has really, really helped.
I love that. I love hearing that. I'm so glad and happy for you that that's happening. This is so important. Okay. So my job as a coach is to help people identify the real source of the problem. Because that's where true transformation comes. There's a reason why like my whole program is called the Elite Transformation. It's because I really believe that transformation is something that is long-term. It happens and it's like an evolution process that stays with you for the rest of your life. But it doesn't happen until you actually identify the real problem, because what happens is people revert, just like what we were talking about at the beginning, they revert back to where their worth is, no matter what. And so until you identify what that is and how to change it, how to cultivate that, how to increase that, nothing changes. You see, a lot of people, they come in and they tell me that they have really high self-esteem. Let me just say confidence. People say, I have really good confidence. Okay, great. But then my question to them is, what's the difference between confidence and self-worth? Any ideas? Yes, he is a goofball, just like me. He can't take anything serious.
Shits it from his dad.
Yeah.
So cute.
I think confidence is just like how you show yourself, and then worth is how you actually feel about yourself.
Wow. First person to get it.
Yes.
Yeah. Smart. That is actually one of the first people who actually say it in that.
I, yeah,
So
that
I couldn't think of words to put
Mhm.
into, but that's kind of how I was thinking.
Really interesting. Like when I feel like guys to me just pop in my head, like the most cocky guys. I feel like I've always dated them in the past, and they always like made my self-worth crumble. Not you.
I can tell that you wouldn't be.
But it's just interesting. I've never connected it, but like they were always like the cocky, confident, like I don't know, jocks of like the school, and then it's like I dated them and they made me feel like crap, and it's because their self-worth was crap, so they had to make me feel like crap. It's just really interesting, but like I never made that connection.
No. Self-confidence is an outward thing. Self-worth is a very inward thing. Okay? So when I talk to people, and I was having a conversation with a past client this last week, and one of the things we talked about was like, okay, like I was sharing this and he said, well, I don't feel like that, Matt. I don't feel like that. I feel like my life is great. I feel like I'm doing my best. I just feel good. Like, and I believe that that's my worth and my confidence. I was like, is that true? I was like, really though? So let me ask you this. Your life is good. You have a really good life. And that's great. You have a good job. You have a good family life. You're being a good dad. Awesome. Now let's take all of that out of your life. If tomorrow they were all gone, your job, your family, who would you be? Would you still be saying that same thing to me? Or would your answers drastically change to my life sucks? I hate this. That's the difference, is that he was showing me a lot of confidence, but his worth was still going to be at zero. It's really easy to mask your self-worth with self-confidence because it is all impinged upon external things. But to me, that is a very shaky ground. And most people today are living this. Most people are living in confidence, high confidence. Now, confidence is really important because of just in this realm right now, like I have to show confidence, right? Or I get to show confidence because if I don't, how would this message be perceived by you? It'd be really weird, right? Guys, confidence. Let's talk about it. It really wouldn't go very well. Now, obviously, you can perceive that as being fake, but the difference is that I know my worth, and that shows my confidence. So this is how we switch this, because confidence is now a byproduct of your self-worth, and it becomes very authentic. It doesn't come from this place of shallowness, where it's, okay, I'm here because I want you to perceive me in the way that I want to be perceived. You see, if no one was in this room right now, could I still show up as the person that I'm showing up right now? It's who I believe that I am. Or does that only happen when you're here? Because that is a huge difference in this. When you have all the nice things, when you have security, you're confident. But without security, you have nothing. That to me is a very scary way to live. You see, and that's what I noticed. That's what I noticed in my life is, okay, I have nothing. So what do I have? Is my life really based upon other people, based upon like whether someone is in my life or not in their life, whether I have money or not money? And then everyone's like, well, money won't make you happy. Okay, so what will? What are you getting from this so far?
I think that you would need both of them to be self-confident. And just in my industry,
Mhm.
for me to go out and have to market real estate agents, to stand above all the other escrow officers out there. Self-worth gives better self-confidence.
Mhm.
You can't just have self-confidence. I guess you can, those are the cocky ones, like she said.
Mhm.
But they have no self-worth. But in the industry, you know, out in the world, or the work world, you would need both, and that to make you good at the financial, that will help you with the financial. Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to talk through it myself.
No, you're good. You're good.
Because I need, that really does, you have to have that self-worth to be the self-confident to get the business.
So this is what's really interesting is everyone displays this differently. Everyone's self-worth is going to be different levels. It's not saying that your self-worth has to be low to have confidence. It's actually saying, okay, this is where you're at, and this is where your confidence is at. So what's really cool is like when you change this, when this increases for you, what happens to this?
That increases.
That increases. And when that increases, what over here increases?
Financial.
Financial. When that increases, what else increases?
Well, my body, because I come here and give you the money.
Yep. Yep. Then what increases?
Your relationship.
Soul.
It's just everything.
Everything.
So that really just.
You see that?
Mhm.
So this is why growth is a never-ending process in our lives. This is why I myself, because the key is growth. It's a never-ending path of growth and capacity. And the more I do that, the more I have to offer. The more my worth goes up, the value of who I am. They think that they're spending money. Oh, we don't have the money. We don't have this. But you can risk this. And you can risk your health. You can risk your soul. You can risk more financial suffering. So when people come to me and say, well, I'm spending all this money. And like, how do you keep spending money? I'm like, I'm not. I'm investing. And if you understand how investments go, first off, there are going to be low points. But you have to ride those out. And when you ride them out, they shoot back up. And you get a huge amount of ROI. And we are the same way. And that's what I've really learned throughout my almost 4 or 5 year process of this. I've taught people all around the country about this process. And it's really taken me to understand that like one of the things that like hindered people in like being able to just apply this part of it, because there's structure within this, is their self-worth. A lot of people will hold themselves back, and I never really understood that like we have to change this so that you can have confidence in applying all of that and living it. Okay? So everyone's going to be at certain levels, and like one area might be really high, but that's not to say that you can't improve it more to be better. And like what happens when you do that? Okay?
So there's different aspects of your life that self-worth comes in though. I mean, you know, just like the financial, I mean, it does.
Absolutely. So what I know is that even though your self-worth could be high, that could be actually a high area, like in financial, being like financially self-worth, like I'm actually pretty good. Like my job is good. Like I'm really confident in what I do. So we can keep that one, you know, even at 100%. But that doesn't mean that these ones are operating at 100%. And so what happens is sooner or later you start to be bogged down by those things. The only reason you're not is because you've taken action in those things. So good job on you.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I have self-worth
Yeah.
in my soul.
Yeah.
I'm working on my body, like I said, relationship and financial. Even though I've been in the industry for 40 years almost, having to market against other people, I let that get to me, and I bring my self-worth down because they think they're more up here when I should work on that self-worth in that area. So
Exactly.
I'm glad I came.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. See, so right there, literally, she's been able to make more money. And just in this conversation of creating awareness, discovering, recreating, and living, we've just increased your financial. That's awesome. Because like that's the power of awareness. That's the power of like really like identifying these things, discovering and recreating. So, like, sometimes this is just entertaining, I feel like, to pull off. I feel like really rewarding that we filmed this out, right? Any questions so far? No?
It's causing me to reflect a lot on a past relationship
Mhm.
that was a 5-year-long relationship, and so it's like, it's really helpful in that way.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize how much of my self-worth came from him,
Mhm.
and so,
Awesome. What about you? What are you getting from this?
So I'm a financial advisor, and with the company I'm with, we listen to a lot of podcasts, and a lot of people that I have to talk a lot about this stuff, so it's making me remember a lot of stuff I've already listened to. But I don't know, I think the biggest thing is the guy I listened to, Ed Milet, he interviews people, and one of the guys that he talked to is like, you got to be authentic, talking about his self-worth and his confidence as well. And he said that he used to just lie to people because he felt so insignificant. He had the crappiest house in his neighborhood, and he'd tell the kids that his dad owned Disneyland. And then as soon as they found out that that wasn't true, they thought he was really cool for a second. They found out it wasn't true, and they were like, he lost all his friends. So it's like, if you're authentic, you own you own yourself, you own who you are wherever you are in life, even if you're not 100% in all those things, you own where you are, you're authentic with people, then automatically your soul is going to be a lot better because you're not lying to yourself and you're not lying to other people, so your relationships are going to go up. And just automatically by being authentic, you're going to be way better off, way happier, and you'll know where to go from there. You're not lying to yourself. And the other thing that Ed Milet says a lot is your self-confidence will come when you keep promises to yourself. And so if you take ownership and you say you're going to do something and you do it, you take that action, automatically your self-worth and your self-confidence are going to go way up.
Absolutely. So there's actually a kind of like almost a motto that I would say that I really try to teach clients and stuff. And this is like any relationship that you create is live by agreements and commitments. Live by agreements and commitments. You see, one of the biggest mistakes that we create in relationships is we create expectations and conditions. We create these expectations and conditions in order for us to have like this good life. In order for us to have like the right marriage and the right things. Like the problem is like this is where people run into a lot of issues in the relationships, is that it's all based on like, hey, if you don't do that, then I don't really love you as much as I could. And yet they'll go out and say, yeah, I totally love my spouse or my significant other with unconditional love, but only if they go and do X, Y, and Z. Only if they go and make sure that they fold their clothes, or only if they go do the dishes, only if they bring in the money, only if they, based on their expectations of what they want for themselves and the conditions they're placing within the relationship. So this is where it becomes very powerful, is where you can, rather than create expectations, conditions, you can now create an agreement and hold commitments to each other. This is very different because it's saying, listen, I agree to do this for you. And I'm committed to doing that in order for you to be happy. Because if that's what makes you happy, then yes, I agreed to do that. So it's very powerful. Like when you live by this and live in this, even in your own life to yourself, like what happens when you do this is you create power. you create inner power. You create power within your relationships. You create power within everything that you do by doing this. Most people struggle with this, and this is why it's so bad to set goals that you're not going to keep. This is why it's bad to set out any kind of promise or say you're going to do something and not do it. And I see this all the time when it comes down to, when it really comes to the workplace, when I see people like clients, one of their biggest mistakes is they can't keep their agreements and commitments. And I know exactly where it leads them, and I know exactly what happens to them, and I know exactly what the problem is. It's not a problem with the program. It's not a problem with me. It's not a problem with anything else that you're doing other than you don't have the power within yourself to keep your agreements and commitments. Your life will change when you start to make only agreements and commitments that you can live by. Again, when you take ownership of that and stop placing it on people outside of you or things outside of you, that's when you have control. Make sense? So I'm glad you said that because it's really important to identify with. Okay. Ow, paper cut. Okay. So, what?
I was trying to say commitment a couple of seconds.
That's funny. Okay. The one thing I want you to consider is that our lives, this is life, are a bank. Okay? Lives are like this bank. Okay? When you think of bank, what comes to your mind?
Money,
Money? Okay, what about money?
spending it.
What is it?
Spending it. Shopping.
Okay, money going out. Right? That's usually the first thing that comes to mind. Money going out, right? But then, what
Yeah.
did you say? That's the financial.
Because you're a private.
I know, that's like, yeah,
Exactly.
I was like, this is going to be really good because he's going to say in. I knew you would. Okay, so this is what I want you to see. If life is a bank, most people only focus on this, right? So what happens if you're always doing this?
Gonna drain.
It's going to drain, right?
I work on those.
That's good. I know you do. So what happens is so many people are giving out here and it drains them. Now we're starting to talk about the commitment of time and like energy that you put into things, right? If you're always wanting to give to that significant other, if you're always wanting to just give to the people that ask and demand of you, what happens is you're always giving and you're sooner or later going to hit a negative point. This can be very dangerous, and this is when most people actually do. Like if you look at a midlife crisis, what happens is that person is given 100% of their life, and they finally find themselves like, what have I done? Like, this is not me. This is not what I want to live. And they go through this crisis where all of a sudden they take all of like what they have and they go do radical things. And to the outside world, it's like, man, what are you doing? Like, this is not good. Like, this is not who you are.
Oh my gosh, that is my life. You are talking about me.
Did not see that one coming. Well, maybe we need to talk about something else now. No, just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
So people are, wow, like I've given my life, I've given everything, and now I'm going to go live my life. And so they start doing everything on the outside. Everyone's like, wow, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's all this bent up energy and emotion that they've like pent up for someone else, for something else. Usually it's people, but sometimes it's a job. Okay, and that's when people just, I quit. And you see him in the movie, he's like, I quit, I'm done. And they just get up and leave their desk, and it's like this big dramatic thing. And then they go on this grand adventure, right? You probably see this in the financial world where people are like making stupid decisions. Where it's like, what are you doing? You don't even have the money for the Lambo. How did you do that? Right? So these drastic things, and so what people find when they come to these points is they really start to listen to their soul. They're starting to identify with their soul, and their soul kind of wakes up, and it kind of hits that point where it's like, what are you doing? Like, we are not happy. It's your soul. Your soul is like triggering, and it hits kind of the rock bottom, and it just can't handle enough, and it just explodes. This can either be very good or very bad. People can do it in a very healthy way or a very self-destructive way. And this is why it's so important to really understand and like create this awareness around, because if like you're going to explode, like make sure that you do it in a way that is going to help you like live and like answer to your soul, not destruct your souls. Because sometimes it's like this big like chaos and people just, I've seen people just end it. So it's really important to identify with, okay? The reason why this is so important is because if this is your life, then it's so important to make deposits. But the thing about it is, what kind of withdrawals does your life demand of you? What does life demand of you with the withdrawal?
Kids.
Kids? Okay. What else?
Jobs.
Jobs? What else?
Wow, I don't.
Parents.
Parents?
Okay.
Like your body, like working out. Like
Yeah, physical demands. Okay, what else? Anything else?
other relationships, like friends and siblings.
I spelled that wrong too, whatever.
Education.
School? Yeah, that's demand. Okay.
Grandchildren.
So-
None of
so-
y'all have that, but
So you can see the list gets long, right? That's a lot of daily investments or withdrawals that you have to make. And because they're daily, what is going to be important? If one is going out, then it's important that one is going in. How often? Daily. All of these demands, school, kids, jobs, husbands, parents, they demand all 4 areas of your operation. They do demand your physical body being there most of the time, whether it's through a phone, whether it's through text, you're physically doing something. Your soul, your emotions, your mental capacity, your relationships, obviously, like that's what most of those are. And then financially, most of those things do demand some kind of financial investing.
and when it comes to being codependent on all that to bring in, that you can't do it. You can't be codependent. With giving out. But all I know.
That's all right. Okay. So,
I'm sorry.
no, keep going. What?
No, I was not gonna say anything else.
Okay. So with all of these demands, it's important that you make a daily deposit every single day. Okay. This is what I teach my clients: is how do you keep your self-worth is by deposits every single day in all 4 areas. I make sure that I make a daily deposit in all 4 of my areas every single day so that I can do this. It is so crucial for me. And it's not something that you always want to do. How many of you always want to put your money in finance or savings? Not you. You're like, that's like where I want it all. No, I'm just kidding. But you see, like most of us Like we were like, I want to go shopping. I want to spend. I want to do that. Like we want to withdraw. Like most of us resist putting in money. And I'm the same way. Like when it comes to making my daily deposits, it's the same way. You won't really want to always do it. But that's not why you're doing it, right? The reason you created savings is not because you necessarily want to. What you want is the result of that. And it's the same thing for me. What I want is the result that I get from making the daily deposits. And that gives me the ability to be who I want to be and live the life that I want to live. For me, that pays out much higher than the complete just like, oh, I'm going to give. Make sense? Now, here's why this is so important to talk about. Because when it comes down to self-worth, self-worth comes down to allowing or not allowing things in your life. This is where it's so important because so many people struggle to keep their self-worth high because they don't understand that self-worth depends on boundaries. It depends on having boundaries within all of these areas. If you have no boundaries, then what you are saying is that you will allow anything to come into this area because you're okay with it. When the reality is like your self-worth is not okay with it. How many times do you allow people to say things to you that maybe like you don't want to stand up for yourself because you don't want to be mean? But yet you're willing to let them say whatever you want them to say. How many times do you allow poor choices of eating, not working out, come into your life, even though you're not okay with it? You go to a party, I'm really on this diet and I'm really trying to improve myself. But
I'm going to one tonight.
Whoops. We really pinpoint. Yeah, exactly. But we allow those things in, and then what happens is you feel a bunch of guilt and shame. That guilt and shame is not necessarily it's not necessarily just something you should put off, and it's not necessarily something that you should soak in, but actually create awareness in. Is why does my soul feel guilty about this? It's because I made a commitment and agreement that I would change, that I would do something different because I deserve better. But I'm allowing this to cross a boundary. I'm allowing myself to be in this boundary where I don't really agree with. Your relationships, like your soul. Like not taking time to take care of your mental and emotional health is one of the one things that we are really lacking in today's society. That's why meditation is growing so fast. It's because just like we take care of our bodies, we have to start taking care of our minds more. And meditation is key for that.
And I was actually going to mention that a while ago. When I was in my self-destruction, after I allowed, I was like being pushed down and drowning, where I had to pop up and do self-destruction things to get out of my my marriage. And it was one night that I listened to meditation about all the different ways people get through divorce and all their feelings that they're going through, because everyone has different. People get introverted, some people get social butterflies like me and want to go out and date, and I did that. And he said, stop. And I called the guy that I started dating. I said, I have to stop seeing you. And it was some random guy on the internet, that meditation, because I was realizing where I was going. And I knew that I had to start focusing on me. And that's when I came into you, when I saw that on the internet, Facebook. And I'm like, nope, this is the direction I need to go. And meditation does help. Help. A guided meditation. I don't know how to do.
Yeah, that's okay.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so this is like a really key thing that I actually teach is how to meditate. How do you do this? And like, what is the process? And like, why do we implement this? And a lot of it is because at the beginning, when you first start meditation, everyone's like, I really suck at meditation. I really hate this. I can't shut up. I can't shut it down. I can't stay calm, and it's not relaxing for me. Well, guess what? When you first start out, it's not. It's not supposed to be. Meditation is the purging of the mind. When you first start meditation, it is a purge. It is all the things that you have held up inside of you and kept inside that is coming out. We actually want that. We want all of the voices, we want all of the noise and clatter to come out. And when you first practice meditation and when you're first doing it, it's like the guy told me I was supposed to be relaxed and peaceful and stuff. And like, I'm trying to shut off my thoughts and just be like, here, don't shut off. Listen, your brain doesn't ever shut off unless you're dead. Your brain is constantly processing information, intaking, outtaking. The process is not to eliminate thought, it is actually to purge thought. And when you do that, then you start to feel it. Then you start to say, like, that is the present moment. That is the present moment because I'm okay. For once in my life, I'm okay right now. I'm not worried. It's the purging thoughts are no longer worried. The only reason it's worried is because you're thinking that it's not supposed to be. Now you're not present. Now you're worried and stressed and anxiety, and then you start thinking about like, well, this means that now you start identifying with all of these things. Okay? Meditation is very powerful when you allow it to purge and you allow it to just create a present moment. Okay? So, when we talk about all of these things and all of allowing or not allowing, your self-worth, why do I mess that up? Depends on the boundaries you create in your life. This is where it can be very easy to allow your self-worth to go down. Is because if you make exceptions on your boundaries, then you're saying it's okay that you diminish my self-worth. And this is very easy to do in relationships. This is very easy for people to do these things in relationships where they say, yeah, I allow that to happen to me. I'm allowing that I'm okay with you doing that to me. Now, the one thing that came up when I was talking to the women that I coach that Kylie's a part of is they talked about, well, what about like when you're in a marriage? Like, aren't you just supposed to be okay with like certain things? Like, isn't that how marriage has to work? And I said, absolutely not. There's a misconception on that. Okay. That's why you have to go back to these agreements and commitments. Okay. But what I am talking about when it comes to your boundaries is if that spouse diminishes you, makes you think that you're less, or tells you that you're less than you are, calls you something, tells you something, manipulates you to think that you are less than. Now you have crossed boundaries. Now you've crossed self-worth boundaries.
Because then what happens is then you go back and try to justify yourself. And then you're just going like this the whole time. And so once you set the boundaries, then you come to level and bring each other up instead of bringing each other down. And that's over 24 years of marriage, it happens until you get awareness and try to stop it. And then it's too late to stop. So to begin it off with a new marriage, that's a great point.
Yeah. When you can understand each other's boundaries and respect and love that, that's when like it really starts to become very powerful. It's because now you're connecting. Now you understand each other's boundaries. And if someone does stop, they can call you out. They can hold you accountable to that boundary that you've created. And you say, you just crossed my boundary. I'm not okay with that. And you can identify and you can say, yep, I did. It's the spouse. And this is in any relationship that you have. Anyone, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in a friendship, creating boundaries is crucial to your self-worth. And if you have someone that continues to cross your boundaries, get rid of them. Because it's not worth it. No one is worth your worth. Never replace anyone with your self-worth. That is the biggest mistake that people make in their lives, is that they're letting people come into their life, diminish their self-worth, and they're saying that it's okay but the reality is it's not. Or if there's something, maybe social media is diminishing your self-worth. And if it is, get rid of it, because it's not worth sacrificing your self-worth. Because again, without social media, without all of those things, if your self-worth is low, then who are you? What do you have? Nothing. That is the worst way. And when we are done, and this is very morbid, but when we die, that's how we leave. We don't leave with someone. We leave alone. And if you have nothing, if you have no self-worth, if your self-worth is low and you don't have anything high or self-esteem or anything like that, then you literally die with nothing. When I started to distinguish that, that's when it made it so important for me every single day to make sure that I was making my daily deposits to make sure that my self-worth was high, because tomorrow is never promised. And I'll be damned if I go to my grave thinking that I am not worth something. So I want you to consider this. I really want you to see this for what we're talking about right now, is because boundaries and your self-worth are so much more than just saying positive affirmations to yourself on a daily basis. It is an action. It is something that you show yourself. If you think of something of high value, what do you think? Like when I think of an expensive item, what comes to your mind? If I could say, here's the keys to a car, what would it be?
We'll say an Earl Morgan.
Okay, awesome.
Or Bentley. We'll just say
Bentley, okay, awesome.
Shoes, only because yesterday I was having a conversation with a lot of coworkers about pricing of shoes and how there's these guys at work will spend $150 on a pair of shoes, and I would never.
So if we could buy, if I had this closet and I was like, hey, we're gonna show you any shoe that you want, any expensive shoe.
About shoes enough to spend that much money.
But I'm giving it to you. What would it be?
Gosh, any free people? There's a pair of clogs that I really want that I can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there they are, the clogs. Okay, there you go. Okay, and you said diamonds?
Yeah.
Kylie, what about you?
Like anything I want?
Yeah, anything.
House.
House. So picture this house. What does this house look like?
I don't want a huge house, but I want a house for me.
Yeah.
That, I had a choice on what I want. I want a spiral staircase in a hidden room. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Okay, cool. But it would still be expensive, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you?
I don't know. House is a good one, but I would want it personally designed in state of the art kitchen.
Okay.
The maid, because the size that you're looking at.
I'm not thinking
Been here
here.
a lot of time, figure it out. Why?
Okay. So think about this. Now think about your expensive item that you just said. How do you treat it? And you're covering it up. You're at night, you're just no frost on that. He's washing it every week.
At least.
Yeah. If there's a crumb, he's the whole car needs to be.
I know.
There's a crumb on the seat, the whole car needs to be vacuumed now, right? Okay.
Keep it in a safe. and-
Safe, yeah. It's hidden
Or
safe.
wear it to where
Yeah. If there's a smudge on your shoe, you're right?
Yeah.
I gotta get waterproof. I gotta get cleaner. And then they go back in their box every time. Right?
They go on the shelf.
Yeah. Shelf. I don't even wear these because the dirt will get on them. I only wear it in the carpeted areas in our house, and I make sure that I step very lightly.
I know somebody.
Yeah. Okay. And the house, you're oh, clean, making sure everything's perfect, pristine, all of these things. Okay. That's how you treat it. Why? Because you put a lot of worth in it. The value was very high. Now you put that on yourself. How do you treat yourself?
So when I told my kids when I die, I want to be cremated and made into a diamond. So.
See? Perfect. Okay. So I want you to just consider these things, and like what we're really talking about right here is like when I come into someone and I say like, hey, like, yeah, let's get you a body because you're going to feel better about yourself. Well, that's not always true. The body is not the solution at all times.
It gives you more energy.
Mhm.
It gives you, I don't know, it's amazing on how much better I feel.
Mhm.
So it does make you feel better
It does.
in a lot of different areas.
Mhm.
I mean, it's only been 5 weeks, like I said.
Yeah.
Wait till 3, I mean, I'm doing 6 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
So just-
Yeah. But you see how it's not identifying with the visual aspect of the body? It's what
Yeah, I'm
you get.
not, right now, I'm not really focused on what I've lost or what I've done.
Mhm.
I'm focused on, I'm here every day, not every day, but I'm
Yeah.
here and I've allowed myself to get up out of bed and, yeah, I've
Mhm.
made a commitment and I've come here.
Yep.
And, I don't know.
So here's what I want you to consider of like what you're actually saying though. These are all feelings. They're all emotions of how you feel. It's how you
Right.
feel, right?
Right,
Perfect. See, a lot of people, they associate a good body, a looking body with that's how they look is how they feel, which is not always the case. And so
I mean,
people,
eventually I'll love,
it will, yeah, it
I'll
will,
feel
it will
like my
come.
body,
Yeah.
but
The byproduct is the body.
Yeah.
Right? That's a byproduct. Because what I've learned, especially in fitness, is as I go through this transformation, there are some things like transforming into a physique competitor. I didn't love it. Like I didn't love the process. Like it didn't give me that what I wanted. What did it though is when I said, okay, like after I'm done competing, like what do I love? Like what is it? And now what I do is I continue to find little places that I can evolve in that, and my body constantly still changes. And saying like, okay, this is what my body needs. Like right now I'm just focused on gut health. So right now I focus on a lot of those things. My daily routine in the morning is like a green smoothie in the morning that is all surrounded around gut health. My vitamins are more about gut health than they are anything. See, and now that has allowed my body to transform, allowed me to feel the way that I want to feel. And now I take that aspect and I add it and I continue to evolve my fitness. And then my body just changes. Okay.
I learned a lot just by being here. Because when I thought of transformation, it was my body.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my mind. And I've learned that I am transforming
Mm-hmm.
into.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the times when you just transform your body and not your mind, you go back within 6 months to a year because you don't have the self-worth to keep your body where it should be.
But I'm like, oh, I didn't transform much. I am.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
And so now, like, what's really cool is like now you create that awareness and you say, okay, now I want to like see like how do I transform this area? Like discover what worked, what didn't work, recreate, live. And you continue that process, create more awareness of saying like, okay, this process didn't work. Now what? How can I improve that process? See, what I do and what I've really focused on, especially in the last month or so, is learning how to create system and structure within my life. And the more I can live within that structure and system, the easier it is to change the operation when something's not working. So what I've had to do is I've had to chart everything that I'm doing. And it was really interesting. I took every aspect from the 4 operations. I added in sleep and I added in just regular activities. And then what I wanted to see was how I was doing. Like, how well was I operating? What was the quality like? And what did I do? So then I could go back through and I could look at this whole. Because at the beginning of the week, what I had done is a few days before I had stopped my morning routines. I'd stopped doing daily deposits. I went in really like as clean slate as I could. what happened when I went to go chart was everything was really low on Monday. I was like, I feel horrible. This is not good. Like just low, 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 low. As the week progressed and I started to incorporate my non-negotiable behaviors, what happened was it started to increase. I could literally see it increase in how I felt, the quality. But then I noticed that still they weren't 10s. The quality and how I felt about them, they still weren't 10s. And I'm very honest with myself. I just say, like, I don't feel a 10. Like, every now and then, like, some things were a 10, but for the most part, I couldn't get 10s across the board. And I was trying to look and see, like, why was this happening? And what I noticed is that one day out of the entire week, I did something, just an activity for myself. Like, just went out and did something for fun. One day out of the 7. And now then I saw like, oh, that is the problem. Is because I'm not willing to like take a day off or relax or go do something. And so now it's decreasing all the qualities in every other area of my life. And I said, okay, so the one thing I have to do and the one thing I get to do every single week is I get to add more of that into my life. And the more I do, the quality should increase. Okay, so the reason why I do this, the reason why I create systems, the reason why I built this is, you see, a lot of us, when it comes to our lives, the majority of us feel like freedom is not having structure. Freedom is not having a schedule. Feeling like you can do whatever it is that you want to do. Ever feel that way? Like, how nice would that be to not have a schedule? How nice would it not to be somewhere and all of these things? Now, most of those are demands. But here's what I want you to consider is that when we don't have structure, when we create this idea of freedom, what we are really saying is life happened to me, and then I will react. Life happened to me, and then I will respond. But you see, most people and most of us don't actually like that.
Oh, I have to have it.
See, so it's rare.
If I didn't have it, tomorrow will always be there.
Mhm.
And so I have to have structure.
OCD.
Because I have to respond and react.
Yeah.
It depends on that. I don't know. It depends for me because sometimes I get anxiety about going to work because I know that I have to be on time. Well, not on time even.
Yeah.
It's just having that anxiety because I have such an early schedule of work that I shut down sometimes. And I need that flexibility knowing that I'll have one day this week that I can come in at 10 instead of 7. Like, that's something that I'm trying to resolve, but that's something, like, with structure, I definitely feel a lot more confident, a lot more like I can get through the day. But at times when it's too structured and there's, like, a time for that, it gives me anxiety and I can't.
Okay, so I relate. My structure, we're supposed to be there at 8, but because I would have anxiety to wake up early, I make mine at 9. So but unfortunately you can't probably do that. But
especially because I live in Mapleton and I work in Lehigh, so I have to leave at a specific time so that I can make it on time.
yeah.
So there's 2 deadlines in the morning.
And then you don't know what the traffic's gonna be like.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it.
So I have to know where my
Yeah.
time.
So you say one day out of the week you do get flexibility?
No, that's what I want to
Okay.
do because I feel like it'll relieve a lot of pressure where I don't have to. Yeah.
And then the day she does have off, she decides to go to the temple at 6:30.
That's my decision.
So that's the thing. So that's something to consider though. And that's
Yeah.
that's the ownership part of it. It's like you say you don't, but you do. Now when it comes to work, it's like I have to go to work. So there's actually 2 different stories being told here. And like when I talk to people about this, it's like, no, you actually, you do like structure, but like what you don't like is the that you feel like you have to do this. And that's the language that needs to change in your mind. Is like you're making a conscious decision to do it. It's a choice. It's ownership. And that is your structure. Now, your structure is also waking up early in the morning to go to the temple. Structure. You've created this structure. If you didn't do it, then like what would happen?
Probably get myself up for it.
Exactly. So you do have structure, but it's not always comfortable, right?
Right.
And what did I say about this at the beginning? Sometimes we want to resist,
Oh, yeah.
right? Sometimes we want to resist this thing, but the outcome of what we actually get is what we want. Okay, and that's really important to understand. You do have structure, but sometimes you need to consider and be allowing yourself the ability to change that structure to fit where you need and listening to your soul. It's a soul calling to saying that maybe I need to adjust something in here. Maybe something isn't working within my structure. And you'll never know that until you create awareness around it, because you'll say, I'm forcing myself. It's not that you're forcing. It's that you're unaware of like what you actually need. And when you can identify what it is that you actually need, then you can address that issue. Yeah.
My other thing is I, for a really long time, had the mornings for myself to exercise. And since I've had this job that I love, I really do, but since I've had it, I've had to sacrifice that. And I don't enjoy doing after, like working out after work, because I feel like there's other things that I need to do that I can't put off or do in the morning either. So it's like I put this sacrifice on my body, and I guess that's where I need to put more attention. But
Okay.
yeah.
So if you had that, would you say that your schedule would feel better
yeah, for
about going?
sure.
So look at this. Look how cool this is, right? Your soul is saying not that like you're the structure of like waking up and being
Right.
somewhere it is. It's that I didn't get time for myself. And now I'm on the run. As soon as I leave here, what it means is like I'm me. I'm not worried about me. And like I have to withdraw. That's the soul, right? This is really cool because now we're like really seeing this, and we're really creating this awareness, and like now we can like start saying like, hey, what do we discover? Like you need time for you in the morning, right? What time do you have to be at work?
7.
7. What time do you have to wake up?
I even like plan it on my phone, but if I wanted to work out and everything, I would have to wake up at 4:45. But typically, lately I've been really enjoying my sleep, so I put that off, and I don't get out of bed until 5:45 sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is really like there's a choice. Like there's that resistance feeling. It's like I don't want to wake up. So what actually needs to change is your PM schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. What time do you go to bed?
Generally around 10.
10. Okay. So maybe bump that up. Now you're gonna say like, well, what about us? Now this is where we get in a really cool conversation. What about us? Now we see like what your first initial thing was. I just want to go home and I want to spend time with him, and I don't really have time here, and like spending time with him, right? Here's what's really cool. It's like, yeah, like that would, like what we try to do in relationships is we try to fit in this quantity of time, but it's not about quantity. It's about quality. So now what you get to do in your relationship is have this really cool conversation about what is it that we do. That 1 hour can seem like it was all night and be so much quality that it enhances our relationship. Because isn't that what you really want from the time together, right? Because now you only need like an hour, and then you can go to bed. And you can still have that boundary where you're still increasing your self-worth at the same time. You can really have it all. And it's about creating that structure now. How you create a healthy lifestyle is like you gain control. Most people don't have control of their lives in some areas. And so if we can bring it all in, grab the reins, have control, how much different would your life be?
It would just be exponentially better.
right? And it's not to say that your life is horrible,
Right.
but it's just saying we could enhance that. We could make it better.
The 5 years of our marriage that were really amazing is when we went to the gym together at night.
Went to the what?
The gym.
Oh, I thought you said the tomb or doom. I was like, I don't even know. I did not know what that is. Yeah.
To work out, and we were both working out, and it was all about. Even though we weren't sitting there talking, we were doing something and physically getting in better shape.
Together.
Which,
Doing something together. So that's always an option to consider, right? There's always different ways that are going to work for each other. And that's why it's a conversation you two get to have and seeing like, what can we do, you know? And it's not always an easy thing. Like, yes, there has to be this like, yeah, we do have to give up maybe some Netflix time, right? It's like, dang it. Now instead of 2 episodes, we get 1 episode. Okay. So it's this conversation like where you start to like create these agreements and commitments, and then saying, okay, like if I structure my workouts 3 days a week, that means like it's some of those nights, like we don't necessarily have to sacrifice as much. Like we could have that longer night, then we have a shorter night, longer night, shorter night. You can structure it in that sense. And if you do that, then you come to this agreement and commitment. And then 1 day out of the week, just like, yeah, we go on date night. Why do we go on date night? Because we want to create that longer time and like quality time together. It's about looking at this and like finding what structure is going to work to enhance the lives that you're living. And it's not to create an imprisonment. Imprisonment is feeling like you do, like I don't have a choice. That is imprisonment. That is saying, I don't have control, I don't have ownership of my life, someone else does because they pay me. Sacrificing happiness and well-being and worth. So this is why I talk about structure. This is why I tell people like, it is about structure. It's about having structure and control of every area of your life, and that is how you gain a healthy lifestyle. And people always think that like when we as coaches or trainers talk about a healthy lifestyle is that we're just addressing the fitness part, but that's not a lifestyle. That's one area of your life. A lifestyle is how you live. It's the quality of your life, which is why I cover all 4 areas. Does that help?
Yeah. Yes.
Kind of bring some awareness to it.
For sure.
Okay. And now here's the thing is like when you choose not to do it, like when you identify this is where it becomes accountability to yourself. Because now you're saying this is what I need to improve my self-worth, to improve my quality of life, to improve the happiness and peaceful mind that I'm really wanting from all of this. When I do not do it, I'm saying I'm okay with that. I'm okay to decrease that. Okay. And I know that's kind of a heavy burden now you put it in that way.
Well,
But it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's saying, okay, today I'm okay with it because I feel like I need it. That is actually not decreasing your quality. That is actually enhancing it because you're giving your soul what you need until it becomes no, I'm just lazy.
yeah.
Right? Okay. If you do something you feel guilty on it, then you're probably doing the wrong thing of what you needed to do. But if you're doing it and you're like okay with it, then you probably were giving yourself exactly what you needed. Make sense? Awesome. So what I do is, as a coach, what I do as a mentor for my clients is we do this. What you basically did is part of like what we do, right, Kylie? Something like that. And what we do is we identify these and we create that structure and system in your life so that you can operate in the way that you want to operate to live the life that you want to live. I never tell people that this is how you should live. I think too many times people come to these kind of information or seminars and things and they leave thinking, this is how I have to live. And they create a box and they get stuck in this box because of what they hear, someone that they perceive as a coach and mentor. And they say, that is the absolute. In order for me to have that life that I wanted, that he talked about, then that's what I have to do. But the reality is like, that's wrong because what I'm saying is not always right for you. So what I help you do is start to see like what does your best life, or what I call your elite life, actually look like. And I let you create it. And then what I do is I give you the tools and the systems to actually start working towards that, to start creating that life for you. I don't believe in right or wrong. I believe that you do and accept, or you don't accept what you want. Everyone thinks that there's like this moral code of like good and bad, but that's not true. Because if you go to other places, if you go to someone else's houses, their moral and codes are totally different. It's all about what you want. I help people get clear on the lives that they're living so they can create clarity, so they can have a clear path to creating those lives. What I would encourage you to do is get clear about what it is that you want in your life. What is it that you absolutely want? And be okay with saying it. Without, and this is kind of like where we wrap up. There's you and there's you, okay? This you out here is how the world perceives you. This is who you really are. When I start to talk to people about what it is that they really want, maybe it's diamonds, maybe it's cars, maybe it's shoes, maybe it's a house. And I say, what is it that you really want? Well, I don't want to say that because it's not even possible. I shouldn't even be saying that. It's just not realistic. It's not true. That is not true. That is what you perceive. The only reason you know that it even exists is because someone else has it. Is because it does exist. But what you don't see is that your self-worth doesn't allow you to ever believe that you are worth it or that you could ever possibly have it. You increase your self-worth, you can have whatever it is that you perceive that you want. Because now you can start changing how you show up. When you start taking ownership. You see, what's really powerful of this is like how the world perceives you is how you perceive yourself. And you take on this outer layer. But deep down inside, there's something inside of you that is completely different. And so when I ask you, who are you? You'll tell me this. But then I'll ask you, no, who are you really? You'll tell me this. So sometimes you don't even know who you are because you've been so caught up in the matrix of everyone else that you've lost who you really are. But that is the person that you have to be every single day in order for you to create the lives that you want to live. My job as a coach is to invite you to step into that, is to invite you to take a step into this, to unlocking that and unleashing that and really embracing it, cultivating that person for once. To not be so wrapped up in what these people want and be wrapped up in what you want and create your own world. That is power. That is the power of being a creator, and that is what you have within you. Is this making sense? Is that something that you would want? Not an easy process, right? Kylie, has it been easy? No.
He makes it sound really easy.
It's definitely not easy because there's a lot of bullshit. That's the best way to describe it. That we have been cultivated. Like, really, the way that you think is not the way that you think, but it's the way that you're supposed to think. And the world has, like, taught you that. But you see, what's really cool is, like, you all think different no matter what I do, no matter what I say or do, or no matter what anyone says or does, but, like, you form and you won't let that person out because you're supposed to be polite. You're supposed to fit in. You're supposed to be in this way that is acceptable to society. But it limits you. It limits your creative power. It limits you in what you're capable of actually achieving in your life. And that's why most people aren't as happy as they could be. Why most people struggle to be the best versions of themselves is because they can't. Because in society, that would be wrong. Very powerful when you start to understand this and you start to peel back the layers and you start to see who you really are. you'll either find that this person is very neglected, or you'll find that this person is ready to live. So, do you guys have any questions on any of this?
No, but it's made it a lot of sense
Good.
to go forward and try to live a better life and try to figure who you are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, awesome. So I do have an invitation that is open. And what I do is I take all of this and I put on an all-day event. This all-day event goes very deep into all of this. Very, very deep. Ask Kylie of her experience. Kylie, what was the live event like for you?
Very opening or eye-opening.
Okay. Because what I do is I take all the systems and tools that we've kind of touched on and we implement them. And I take you through an all-day process to really like break through this, to get to this and start communicating more with this. And what happens is that you walk away completely different. Kylie, how different did you walk away from that day?
Very different.
Right?
Yes, a lot more self-aware.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the chaos starts to appear for Kylie, right? And that's why she's still coaching me, is because now that she's so self-aware, she's starting to see more.
Like work through it all.
Mm-hmm. And it's a process, right? But I can tell you that for the 4 women that came, they have lived different. The way that they operate in life, their self-awareness has gone up. They have fixed marriages. They have changed how they allow people in their lives. And they have changed how they feel about themselves. Changed relationships. Like this live event is not one where you're sitting like this, right, Kylie? Is this totally different than what we've done last? It's very hands-on. It's a very submersive event that I do, okay? The next one that I do will be in March, okay? And what happens is like when you come into this, then what we do is we create this. They created a sisterhood. I only want to do one for women and one for men. But what happens is you create this bond. You will see that person in a different light. They will see you in a way, and it's a bond that is completely different from any of the bonds that you'll ever create in any aspect of a seminar or event. Then what happens is you hold each other accountable and you support each other throughout your journey. And so you become in this group and you create this connection where you help each other through the hard times, where we create these safe places where you can talk about the hard days, you can talk about the struggles, and you can open up into a safe place and actually be able to cultivate the person that you want to be to live the life that you want to live. Okay, so next month, that's when I'm going to do it. And so if you would like more information on that, and if you would like to know like what that would look like for you and be a part of it, then I would love to have a conversation with you. And so that way we can kind of talk and see if it's right for you and kind of go into that. Okay. So, sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Is there anything that I can do or anything that you want to address before we end? Okay. Perfect. Well, thanks for coming, and I hope that it was helpful. And just know, like, if you have any more questions about this as you go through it, there's so much more into this, and I just wanted to touch like the iceberg of it all, the tip of the iceberg of this, and kind of give you some new perspective. And I hope that that's what you got from this. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Now I want to take